Welcome everyone to the LIBERcast episode 46. 46 episode that I had a great time. All these beautiful guests that I'm having and I'm gonna have on this podcast. Thank you everyone for being there, for supporting it, for being in the comments, the questions, the guests, and the people who are actively participating in it. So I just wanted to bring um, this tonight. I think it's we have a few things to say, and I think this is the perfect day for that because it's all fresh in our memories. And we are having Logan Hart that's join us tonight. Welcome, brother.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So, just a quick round, guys, about your work and where we can find it. Yeah, Logan, want to start?
Sure. So, Wizard Factory on YouTube, Facebook, Odyssey, all the standard ones. You can find all those links on the link tree. If you go to my Facebook, and the cover photo has my link tree link there, and in my bio.
Derek.
Hey, Fred, thank you again, my friend. Derek Bartolacelli, that's how you pronounce it. I know it's a mouthful. And Awaken Your Mind is my moniker for mixing conscious hip hop. Got 100 of those. You can spend weeks, delving into that kind of stuff, as well as some of these other videos I got accumulated at this point. And yeah, BitChute, Odyssey, all those things. Y'all have to see what's going on because there's things like YouTube and the other mainstream platforms that just, won't allow us to have all that good, like a lot of other content creators. You won't find them on YouTube anymore, kind of thing. So we're trying to make that mass migration exodus over to the other platforms, So yeah, we got a lot of stuff hot and ready for y'all, everyone here. So I'm glad to be present again, my friends. So yeah, on to the next. Thank you.
James.
Hi, Fred. James Cordiner, freeyourmindne.com. I'm a father, husband, truth speaker, truth seeker, anarchist, that kind of guy. So happy to be here for a very unusual impromptu talk.
Brendan.
Howdy, howdy. Yeah, I'm on Odyssey, BitChute, the One Great Work Network. My link tree can be found on all of those platforms. Soon to be, hopefully, be honored to have my second channel nuked off of YouTube. So I'm doing the best that I can. Since YouTube needs to be flushed down the toilet. So yeah, that's where people can find my work.
Yeah, better go to Odyssey than everywhere else, actually. You know, I'm putting my stuff there because everything is downloadable. You can download everything is
Yeah,
free. No censorship, no YouTube crap, fucking false standard and double standards and things like that. I've been pretty lucky with the YouTube actually. I'm fucking surprised that I'm not getting blocked. The last conversation, the last table discussion,
yeah,
there was some really juicy stuff there, and I didn't get banned or blocked or delete or censored. So well, we'll see. You know, um, I always have the tendency to keep away from jabos and all this shit because of the bad attention it brings you from the medias. And I mean, I'm happy with this whole conversation. James was there, Derek was there when we listened to this video and we talked about it more in depth. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So I just want to bring something because I know we need to talk about this shit. I mean, I mean, I'm just like I'm just looking at at this thing, and a lot of things comes to my mind. Like, first of all, why we should do that? You know, because there's there's freedom things that have been uh, used as weapons on us, used as propaganda, and I mean, what is just tell me, guys, what's to forgive? What can we forgive in that?
You know what this makes me think of? If anyone's familiar with South Park, there's the episode where the BP oil keeps doing the spills and everything, and they keep making these PR videos where he's like, "We're sorry, sorry," and he's like, posing by the fireplace and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Sorry, that's what makes me think
Yeah,
of.
looks like
Yeah.
yeah. I remember that the episode. It was fucking funny because
Yeah.
it's exactly that.
Yeah. It
Well,
says
it's
for people
first
that
of
are only
all,
listening, Fred has an article pulled up from The Atlantic written by Emily Oster,
Yeah, it's viral now.
Oster. Yeah. And it's, if you haven't heard of it, I mean, well, look it up. And it's called Let's Declare a Pandemic Amnesty. The subtitle is We Need to Forgive One Another for What We Did and Said When We Were in the Dark About COVID. And the big problem is that a lot of the things that were being shown the light from the very beginning and being denied by a lot of the people that are now asking for this pandemic amnesty. Um, the truth has been consistently put out there from the very start, and when you really start looking at it, you can look at the work of like Richard Grove, James Corbett, a lot of these independent researchers like Whitney Webb, a lot of independent researchers were on top of it. They were paying attention and they were spreading the right information. You have people like Dr. Peter McCullough. You have people like Carrie Mullis, who passed away before the pandemic, but he was the chemist that was responsible for inventing the PCR test. And he specifically said that in the detection of such a virus, previous to the pandemic, he said in the detection of such a virus, the PCR test would be worthless, and that Fauci was a clown. You have people like Dr. Robert Malone, who is one of the co-inventors of mRNA technology, coming out and saying from the very, very beginning about the vaccines that they should not be doing this. You have people like Geert Vanden Bosch and other virologists that were coming out and saying that that in a pandemic of such magnitude that a vaccine would do nothing, that we should not be vaccinating anyone, that we should let this type of thing just run its course and see and hope for the best. And that, and then you have people that were coming out and warning about the negative effects that a lockdown would have on children, the negative effects that masking children would have, the negative effects that lockdowns would have on people that need things like psychotherapy. There's plenty of sources out there that were pointing out all of the things that we are now being asked for forgiveness for, and that this could have all been avoided if people just weren't so scared and weren't so jumpy to just buy into the science and follow the science and commit one of the largest, most collectively logical fallacies ever in the course of human history, of just appealing to authority in such one fell swoop, and they got everybody just in just one fell swoop, and everybody just fell into lockstep. And if you just remember in the past about just how it really all went down, the amount of fear that was ramped up, there is a certain point where it's like, yeah, you had a moment there where, maybe, just maybe, we could have been having this conversation maybe a year and a half ago, but you persisted and persisted. And then the vaccines, and then families fell apart. People lost their jobs. In turn, people lost their houses. People lost their families. People weren't allowed to go and bury their dead family members. People weren't allowed to visit their sick family members in the hospital. The people weren't allowed to do these things. And it caused a lot of civil strife. On top of all of that, you saw a large group of people for a very long time in the United States and other places and over the, around the globe, protesting about police brutality. Now, I'm all for speaking out against police brutality, but they weren't getting treated half as bad. And in this country in particular, the propaganda was heavily swayed in their favor. It was called the Summer of Love, mostly peaceful protests, fiery yet peaceful protests. And seemingly nothing was done about this. Nothing. But the second you come out and start talking about the vaccine and talking about the lockdowns and talking about the mask mandates, all the mandates, everything, when you start talking and, when you're not falling into lockstep with their agenda and their narrative, now the hammer comes down on you. The sheer amount of the scales being tipped in the favor of those who would be so quick to follow the narrative, those who would feed into the civil strife. It was obscene and gross. And then on top of all of this, we're starting to see a narrative shift big time. This is why this article was even released, I bet, because now they want to start mending. They want to start, a PR campaign to make it sound like that they're the good guys, the ones that were causing all of this from the very beginning. Now they're the good guys. They're the ones asking for forgiveness. Hey, we tried to make amends. No, you had your chance. That's the thing. You had your chance a long time ago. We could have had this conversation. We could have started this conversation, but you never wanted to. You passed up the opportunity. You did. There is plenty of us that were out here saying, please, everyone just slow down. Please just slow down. Don't make me do something that I don't want to do. Don't make a claim over my body. Don't make a claim of ownership on my body. The amount of people that were you saw it on the news all the time, people getting arrested for being alone on a beach when they're not supposed to be outside, when they're not, people in Australia being arrested and put into COVID camps for testing positive. A pregnant woman was arrested in Australia for speaking out against the lockdown. She made a Facebook post saying that something about the lockdowns being bullshit, and the cops showed up and arrested her, pregnant. Yeah. Guy on the beach in California, paddleboarding or whatever, gets arrested. He's alone. You know what I mean? Like, it's just time and time again, you see these stories developing. You see kids in New York City. Like, there were stories about kids being, taken away by the police in police custody because they didn't have a vaccine card and they were trying to eat in a restaurant. So the cops come and they take the kid away too. A complete degradation of any sort of civil society that we even had left before the pandemic started. And now they want forgiveness. These are the same people that would do it again. They would do it again.
Absolutely.
And there's no forgiveness that they can even ask for. Like I said before already a couple of times, that ship has sailed. They could have stopped it all when they started making claims of ownership on other people's bodies. They could have stuck with the same things that the same group of people that were standing up and saying, yeah, there should be a vaccine mandate. Yeah, there should be a mask mandate. Yeah, there should be all of this. It's the same group of people that for years and years and years have been fighting the good fight of bodily autonomy and being in my body, my choice. A lot of the same exact protest groups were saying, yeah, there should be vax mandates. Yeah, there should be, not 100%, but a lot. And then now they want forgiveness. Nope. I'll take an apology, but that does not mean that you get forgiveness.
Yeah, that's what stood out to me was that forgiveness is incumbent upon the victim, not the abuser. Like you said yourself, it's one thing to say sorry, but just glossing over the real conversation, like you said, and then just jumping right to, can't we just put all this behind us and you just forgive us? Well, that's not how this works. You know what I mean? You have the real conversation first, and it's up to the person that the victim to decide what's appropriate, what's fair as far as forgiveness is concerned. That's their choice to make.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unfortunate that with this particular event in human history, people committed suicide because of different circumstances, like losing their jobs and whatnot. Like, they were shutting down mom and pop shops. Meanwhile, the big box stores, they get to stay open. You know, people's lives were
Irreversible damage.
ruined forever.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the big corporations that get bailed out every fucking 4 years in the United States, at least, you know, big international corporations that the United States government bails out, they're fine. Amazon, Walmart, they're fine, you know.
Yeah.
But
Sign
meanwhile, the
like
mom
that.
and pop shops, it's just the screws of control were just tightened and tightened and tightened and tightened, over torqued until they fucking snapped. And then next thing you know, everyone's like, "Oh well, maybe we pushed it too far." Oh yeah, what made you think about that? The 367% increase in childhood development issues. What
Oh
made you
my.
think that?
No.
What made you think that? The amount of children that are in speech therapy right now has increased almost 400% to the point where these speech therapists are like, we've never seen this before, ever. The signs of autism in children have increased just because of masks. Just because of masks. The young children need to see face. They need to see your face in order to be able to pick up on social cues, to learn how to speak.
Yep.
And you cover your face, you cover their face, you cover the face of themselves and their peers to go to your fucking public schools. You know, like, what did you think was going to happen? Oh, we knew exactly what was going to happen. There was a lot of people warning about this right at the beginning. Nope. Follow the science. Fauci said, follow the science.
What's ironic about it too is that it's like virtue signaling, but on both sides. First is virtue signaling that, well, you know, mask up because don't you care about people, and take the vaccine because you know people are dying. Like on that side of things, and now they're just skipping right over to the other side and like, well, can't we just all forgive each other and put this behind us? It's like,
no,
the
they're asking
fucking
for it on
nerve.
a basis of zero accountability.
Yeah,
I mean-
Zero accountability.
I'm gonna tell it like roughly, you know, boldly. Parents who send their school to their children to school, you're fucking bad people. You're bad fucking people. Here in Canada, children was obliged to wear this fucking diaper even outside on the playground. So we have generational traumas there's gonna be started now. And all these people will feel uneasy without mask. They'll be they will be very awkward socially
Yeah.
because their skill is lessened. And I mean, it's unfucking forgivable. Unforgivable. Eh, I mean, the first week of this shit starting, it was too far. Was too far. I lost 2 jobs because of that. No, and I lost my fucking my trust into the medical staff, doctors, nurses. I don't trust them anymore, ever. They're garbage. They were fucking dancing and making videos
Yeah, the
of
TikTok
them
dances.
dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Where's all the patients that you need to be taking care of?
Yeah, for
You're such
real.
a hero. Meanwhile, you can twerk on TikTok and make
Yeah.
it. You know, you can do all these other things, and yet we're meant to believe that you're so busy. You know, there's people that need your help, and you're just soaking it up. Your time in the spotlight. You know, everyone's a hero. You work at a CVS. You work at a pharmacy. You're a hero. You know, it's complete inflation of people's egos to help them take the bait and drag them along this story. And keep going. You want to be a hero because you work at a pharmacy and you work a cash register where people buy fucking candy bars. You know, like what are you doing?
Bussing people around. These fucking idiots were placed into the entries of the stores, and they were fucking screaming after people. Wash your hands. and they were like fucking little tyrants.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was cynically beautiful to see how fast and how quick the psyche of these people changed. You they come from a victimhood. Their life is a victimhood, and then they become little tyrants.
Mm.
And then when they don't need it anymore, they're gonna take back their victimhood
Right. It's the
worldview.
abuse victim cycle. That's what
Right.
it comes
Exactly.
down
Yep.
to.
Stockholm
Master
syndrome.
slave thought
You know.
Exactly.
happening at the same
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
It's almost
Yep.
like they want us to confuse forgiveness with being very naive, because we couldn't go inside the stores to get foods, which is needed to survive, and the level of economic terrorism, hell that I had to go through. Hell, within that year, I lost over $10,000, just being told that you are not important. Hell, you can't go to work. So it's almost like, they are saying, hey, we're not going to take any form of accountability and responsibility. And we just want y'all to forget, what has happened. But, we will not, forget, because we all had to go through that trauma. And, like one of my great friends, he always said, hell, about forgiveness is true forgiveness starts with a change in behavior. And I have not seen any change in behavior because, like James said, if they came out right now and said, do all that shit over again, most people would do it all over, hell again, and wouldn't even think twice about it because they still have that cult mentality. They still have that cult mentality. And those seeds of that cult mentality are still within their psyche.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because, I said it off air, but I'll say it again just for the sake of it being on air. Yeah, if the government came out tomorrow and said, "Looks like we got to go do it again," how many of these people that are asking for forgiveness right now would just fall right back into the narrative and be like, "Well, I guess we got to do it again. Government said," and
Yep.
it's like, a lot of them
Stockholm
would
syndrome.
face the facts. A lot of these people would. They wouldn't take the lesson. They wouldn't take the lesson. They would just go, "Well, I guess we got to do it. Government says," and it's like that's their mentality. They don't think for themselves, and it's nothing new. It's not. This is just the trigger being pulled on the weapon, and the weapon is the the dumbing down, the deliberate
Absolutely.
dumbing down of these people.
Yep.
And I would be lying if I said that for a brief time right at the beginning that that I didn't think it was, legit. Like I thought for a very brief period of time, like this could actually be something to be worried about, and you have young kids and you're not very in the know, not paying attention. This is how it happens. But then you
Yeah.
start paying attention and you have, reasoning skills and you're like, wait a minute, things don't add up, you know, that's when you start waking up a little bit.
Yeah, and
There
you'd think people had enough time to do so, and like how many people actually took the time to do some homework? I think people did a good amount of, the lockdowns, and everyone had a couple months off from their jobs. The majority of people, we're generalizing here, but like how many people actually looked into alternative information and not just a different recipe on how to make some keto diet food or whatever the fuck, like nothing wrong with these things, but where are people's priorities and where are people actually trying to like break through all the fear-based mind control, because that's basically what the fuck happened, since the dawning of the Rona, amongst all these other, miasmic levels of programming and all this other shit, all the trauma-based mind control, and on TV you got the drama-based mind control, as I like to call it. But yeah, it's that, it's the Stockholm syndrome that people are going to snap back into once, hey, government, the propaganda machine is going to start cranking out some more, bullshit variants or whatever the fuck, right? Like, oh, you got that new booster coming up. Like, this might be the one you get just like once a year now or some shit like that. Like people, not like it's going to sell like hotcakes at this point because a lot of people are a little disenfranchised of it. But, they haven't broken past a certain level of actually being empowered within themselves and breaking through those barriers of fucking fear and actually, taking upon themselves to just eat right, act right, behave right, as Brandon was saying, and all these other factors that are just making people a sovereign fucking individual, which is exactly what the hell we need in this world. So yeah.
I mean,
Another,
Preach.
uh,
oh, you go on, Brendan.
yeah, another aspect of this is going to create more of internal division. This is going to create more of an internal schism. And the reason why I'm saying this is because for over 2 years, the useful idiots was listening to the authority on this narrative. Now they've completely flipped this narrative and say, hey, the ones that hell the ones that you were demonizing, you need to forgive. So in actuality, you're going to have two conflicting thoughts that are going to be going in. So those two conflicting thoughts are not going to harmonize. So this is just going to create more of an internal, have division and keep them in that state of imbalance, in that state of disharmony, and in
Yeah.
that state of fear, in that state of confusion. So therefore, they will never ever, he'll look toward any new knowledge. They won't he'll listen to any new information. It'll just keep them in that same means of duality, in that same means of falling for whatever dialectic that the authorities will bring in. So this may actually be held by design too, and I'm pretty sure held that it is. Because
Mhm.
these people have been watching the mainstream media for so long. And then you just flip the polarity. Flip to the held the polar held extreme, and that's going to create an internal a schism.
Yeah, you can see the behaviorism behind too. It's very evident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brendan covered it extensively, and I mean, you can see it. Put your mask 6 feet. You know, you don't you can't. I mean, I'm not vax. I'm gonna give everything to not get vax. You know, and it was an interesting and raging situation at the same time. And I just want to bring that because I think it's important to realize how perfected the slave the slavery has become with the time. I mean, we know that's the shadow slavery with chains and balls, and then we had like capitalism. It means you still have the balls and the chains, but they're fiscally in the context. It's money, it's debt, and now it's only fear. The fear of maybe, what if? It's only words, essentially. So I mean, here I'm gonna talk in the context of French Canadians. I mean, here people were already inclined to be statiist. They like this shit. They gonna ask for more. And when the pandemic started, then every every ill people have now a reason for be mentally ill. You know what I mean? All these people that are inventing disease in their heads. Now they have everything. It's giving to them the stimulation because it's also about entertaining. Here in Quebec, I don't listen to TV, but I know that it was fucking pounding numbers and red and blue and red and big red. And here in Canada, the people are so retarded. Uh, uh, James, sorry about that. I used the word retarded. The people are so retarded now that they
Why would
use
I?
actual colors into the geographical place. No, this place is yellow. This place is green. This place is orange. And depending on what color your region was, there was some rules and mandates upon it. You know, the people are so childish. They're so they're so they're so ignorant that they're gonna believe anything. Now I know that if they do a boogeyman section on the news, people will start believing it's true. They're gonna believe into the leprechaun now. They're gonna say, "Oh, there's actually a little person who lived under a rainbow, and have gold, you know. Now we have to find them, find the leprechaun, you
And
know.
then after this commercial break, you're gonna have all the corporations that survived the scandemic and all this stuff, and all the mom and pops that don't even have the financial clout to, be backed up and like be on all the, on the boob tube and all that stuff. They're not going to be with the program of, the agenda and the messages of we're all in this together, and weak ass little lower caps build back together, the 666 in the mix and all that shit. And just during 2020, you guys probably seen the montage of all these commercials that were just like hypnotic to the tone of like just go in line with the narrative and all this shit. And everyone's wearing a mask in the commercials now and all this shit. And you're like, dude, what the fuck is this motherfucking bull? Yeah.
The new
After this
normal.
commercial break, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Oh,
Brought
look at
to you
all their
by Pfizer.
Look at all their beautiful smiling
Sponsor, yeah.
faces, but you can't tell because they're wearing masks.
Yeah.
They're like,
Demonized a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and
But yeah.
they're still having them now. Here
Oh,
where I
yeah.
live, there's place that you need to wear a mask.
That blows my mind. It's almost like it's self-sustaining. Even the news has kind of backed off compared to where it was, and people have so internalized that fear. They don't need to be they don't need to be forced. They're doing it on their own free will.
Logan,
you
that
have
was
to
the
be
goal.
broken. Yep.
That was the
You have
whole
to know,
goal the
Logan,
whole
you have
time.
to know that Quebec is one of the epicenter of the technocratic tyrannical government. If it's implanted, it's going to be one of the first place. It's here. Because people are fucking retarded.
A word I have no problem with. I don't know why.
It's only referring to children. That's what he meant. But yeah. We were talking earlier.
I don't know if there's these people that are going to listen to it. Because, I mean, you're fucking endangering everyone around you.
Check this out. Sorry. Keep going,
you
Fred.
go.
I got a really interesting question real quick for
fucking roll.
everyone. Because like straight up, like at this point, like the government is not enforcing this. It's really just, company by company or businesses and stuff. And like even like almost a year ago, like the mandates of the mask and this and that were done, but you still had people at the front door like, you gotta wear the mask. And I joked with one of them, and it kind of clicked to me because I never thought about it before. I was like, hey, like, aren't you like worse than the government? Because like you're just enforcing this on your own fucking free will choice based off of fear and the false narratives and some negative knowledge. And so how do you guys feel about that? Like, your everyday people that are enforcing the masks upon other people, they're worse than the government in a sense at today, because the government is not, putting the mandates of, man and woman being on a date of fucking slavery type of shit, What would
It's
you
like
guys
the
say to that?
mini-me
It's kind
Satanism.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
they say it's policy.
Yes.
They might lose their jobs and all that, but yeah, it's just. What do you say to that?
company
It's kind of
policy.
harsh.
Oh, you fuck around with me, you lose more than a job. Because I came to the conclusion, anyone who even tries to put a mask on me, you're gonna eat bullets. Like that's where I was coming from, and like motherfuckers felt that energy, So I just walked around like in my confidence, adhered to my principles, and didn't put on a mask, still haven't worn a fucking diaper, and like hell, I just had this energy, like motherfucker, if you mess with me, like shit will get fucking serious, and I'm dead fucking serious. If motherfucker try to jab me, you gonna get 2 to 3 jabs. You're gonna eat 5, 6 rounds. Like that's the kind of shit that how I was coming from. That's the kind of energy how I was coming from, because that was my line in the fucking sand. So hell, when I would go to stores, hell, what I would do is I would just acknowledge them first. Like don't give them any time to talk. So when you acknowledge them, you use kind of some psychology and you recognize their presence, you kind of catch them off guard and you stand firm and you just, throw up the deuces, or you give them that nod and just keep on walking. And that shit worked like every time, but you have to, be confident in shit, because yes, they were fucking mini-me tyrants, but at the end of the day, they were still fucking cowards.
That's exactly what I was
They
gonna
were
say.
still fucking cowards. So I will shit on them, I will fucking step on them and put them in their fucking place. if that need, came to it.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who like I was trying to say before, I almost went like a coughing spasm. Like for the first couple of weeks of this whole thing, I was freaking out. I was like, holy shit, like this could be real, you know? And then I was like, let me see what the people that are making an argument against all of this stuff are saying. And it made more sense than the actual, you know? So it was like then yeah, like don't wear the mask. And then before you know it, they're talking about the vaccine. I'm like, I'm never going to get that thing anyways. And then, you know, they're talking about mandates and all this other garbage. And it was just like, I'll quit my job. I'll move. I'll leave. I'll go wherever I got to go. I don't care anymore. Like I'm not letting them tell me what to do with my body anymore. You know? Yeah, it was a quite a tense time up here, you know, young kids running around, pregnant wife, very scary stuff. Very scary stuff. You don't want it to be real. You know, these people are liars. It's not like I was ignorant. I knew these people are liars, you know, but even what's the saying? Even a broken clock is right twice a day. And, you know, I kind of liken it to that old story of the boy who cried wolf. Is eventually that wolf showed up. And if the boy just hadn't lied so many times, the villagers would have showed up to save his ass. But, you know, he lied about the wolf so many times that when the wolf actually showed up, the wolf got him, you know. And like, I kind of use that allegory to like explain how somebody who's and I'm just going to put it out there. Don't take this any way, guys, or anyone listening. But that allegory to me kind of explains how somebody who's like really is thinking logically, like, you know, like they might not be lying about this one. This might actually be true. Like, let me kind of play the field a little bit. Let me see what's going on. And then, you know, we'll hear some arguments and, you know, make a logical decision after that. And it just so happened that the people that were making the better argument were saying, no, this is not how any of this works. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's more believable. You know, independent researchers, the real doctors that were coming out and really saying, no. When people are pushing in one direction so hard, a logical person goes, okay, maybe that is the way to go, but I'm going to listen to the guy that says, no, go this way. I want to hear what he has to say too before I make a decision, because then I can at least hear both sides of an argument, because I'm not the authority. I'm not a virologist. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not the guy that studies these things. I'm a trash guy. I drive a fucking trash truck I got 2 kids. I'm a family man, you know. I've been questioning authority since I was 6 years old, like on a daily basis, just questioning authority. But there's still that chance every now and then that they could be telling the truth.
Well, isn't
And
that the kind of the ultimate form of chaos is just that total unpredictability? If they were consistent with their lyings, you could just always assume that the opposite of what they're saying is true at all times, but you never know because, I mean, these people, these psychopaths, they will fabricate events, false flags from thin air. They will orchestrate things for a particular agenda, but then bad things do happen. You know, like the world is not a safe place, and they will find a way to hijack that situation and contort it into serving their agenda to push that forward.
It's the all spiritual aspect. I think suffered much from this. Yes, people are afraid of dying, for sure, but I mean, people were struggling to find something else to hold on to. And I think this psyop, the first thing I thought when I heard it psyop. The first thing it came in mind, it was a psyops. It was too perfect. It was the perfect storm, you know. They were just try to get out of this shit that they put themselves on, and they had to hide the global crash of the economy. They had to hide it, so they made this shit up. Actually, you know, it's the same thing as the what the monkeypox. What the fuck was that? Just after that, they try to get people into that. And then after that, you have all the entertainment, the politicians, and then the two parties, and the people who were starting dramas. BLM. What about BLM and the cult of the alphabet?
They actually use all of the cult techniques that Mark talked about to install this programming. You
Yep.
had isolation, how then you had the herd conformity, then you had the repetition, and then of course you had the trauma. So once they told everyone to stay at home, don't go to work, and they closed everything down, that was the isolation. Then you had the herd conformity, we're all in this together, with all the slogans, with all the cult like mantras, with all, the same footage, being used. And they put all that shit on repeat. Hell, repeat, 24/7. Hell, all the news channels were talking about it. Hell, all the people on the radio. It was everywhere. And then you had the trauma. The whole hell, images from China. Like people just falling out on the street. You had all the footage from Italy. Of all the fake hospitals. And all the projected numbers. Saying millions upon millions of people hell were going to die. And people just fell for it, man, because they didn't understand these techniques. But once they told everyone to isolate and stay away from everyone, that right there was the first sign for me, but it's like James was saying is yes, even though, hell, these people lied to us, hell, so many times, we still have to engage and judge reality based on what we see with our eyes, based on what we hear. So
Yeah.
even though it was, hell, a big ass false flag, sadly, it was a fucking dialectic and people still bought into it. So because, how people how bought into that side of the dialectic, and therefore they are, how creating it in the real world. So even though it was a false ass, hell pandemic, the people still bought into it hell enough, and that was the dangerous aspect of it because they was the ones who were the most dangerous, and those were the ones who turned on us and was pointing the finger on us and demonizing us. So yeah, that's just the way that the cult mentality works, and hopefully people, I know how y'all four are familiar hell with those cult
Yeah.
mentalities. So
Repetition.
And meanwhile, in the background of all of that cult mentality, that programming going on in the background, like the 9 or 10 steps of genocide were also like the 9 or 10 steps that toward a genocide are also happening. Like you have the othering of people, like that kind of stuff is also going on. Like all the while, like all of these different techniques used to like do a mass culling are like going on. It's like either which way, they're gonna get what they were getting what they want.
Like
It's just a shame that not more people were willing to hear the opposite of the narrative. They weren't willing to hear both sides of the argument, and that is something that's been like the frog in the boiling water over the course of a couple generations of people that are just kind of programmed into falling into a narrative or a camp, this tribalism that's been going on largely, and it's a shame. It really is. There's another thing that was on my mind about this big ask for forgiveness, this pandemic amnesty. It's not about this ask for forgiveness. It's not about accepting the fact that these people that are asking for the forgiveness aren't accepting the fact that they were lied to. They just want to brush everything under the rug and just move on. And what that's doing is it's creating an even further it's creating like an even further degradation of reality, and where it's like, okay, you cannot even just accept the fact that you were lied to, which also in turn means that you're not accepting the truth. You just want to pretend it didn't happen or just forgive and just move on, when it's like, no, you were lied to. You want forgiveness. Are you going to admit that you were lied to? Are you going to admit that you did these things? Are you going to like repent, basically? Are you going to like pledge that you'll never listen to these authoritarians again? because I fucking doubt it. And that's the problem. That's why me personally will not grant forgiveness to these people. I have my own family members that were like, oh, well, he can't hold out for very long. It's like, guess again, guess again. It's been almost 2 years, and here I
Keep us
am.
calm, man.
No poke,
Yeah, that's the major red flag for me right there is it'd be one thing if this was an article saying we were wrong, and we're so sorry, like this was not right, actually taking that accountability, that self-ownership, and acknowledging the wrongdoing rather than just saying it's time to move on and put this all behind us. Like there's a world of difference between the tone of those. And it just goes to show no lesson was learned here. And like you've all said, if there was another threat that had people, stepping up as the little mini me tyrants again, they'd be right back to it because that's the programming running. This isn't about personal accountability. It's not about acknowledging wrongdoing or what actually happened. It's just kind of like trying to gloss over so you don't feel that sting of, oh shit, we were wrong and they were right and we shouldn't have done that. Is just a huge difference.
Yeah, man, and it's like it's just a form of like bypassing, sweeping it under the rug, whatever semantics we can call it and stuff. And James, that's real talk. I mean, like, how many people are actually going to be able to forgive themselves for what they've been, led on to believe and be duped and continue with that negative feedback loop in the cycle. And yes, but let's bring it back to what does apology mean? Apo and logos, right? To take back the word, more or less, right? And are they willing to take back the word that they threw at us, being all accusational and like, oh, we're the bad people because apparently their medicine won't work if we don't partake in that cultist activity of the needlecraft. But yeah, at the same time, there's that it's going to be hard for people to break out of that even more ego encrusted identification with all that, because they literally took like that blood oath via needlecraft. And even though I think there have been people that have tried to save face with that, even within themselves and stuff, but yeah, it's just it takes a lot of shadow work and mirror moments to for one within themselves to even go out there and apologize to other people, and be sincere and genuine about it, not this little lip service or even lipstick service to it or whoever, so
I'm sure those people are out
it's
there too.
possible.
It's just not the person that wrote this article. I'm sure there are people that
Oh, yeah, for
legitimately
sure.
feel
Yeah.
terrible about it and they would
yeah.
take it back. But
Mm.
that's not what we're seeing here.
Real
Well, the problem comes in when largely there is a lot of the information that is being accepted today and being put out there as if it's only coming out now. that was available 2 years ago. So that's the problem. We learn new things as time goes on, sure. But when you have information that was available 2 years ago that's only being accepted right now and you're asking for forgiveness now, that's the problem. So let me remind everybody here about this subtitle. It says we need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID. Excuse me. Like I just said, you're now accepting information as truth that was available 2 fucking years ago, and you're acting like it just came out yesterday.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
It sounds like a circle jerk to me.
It
Let's
is.
all just forgive each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like no. We do not need to. There's no we. There's no one another here. There is the group that was right. There's the group that was incorrect, and you need to fucking get in line with that right now because that's reality. I was saying the truth. You were repeating a lie. There is no one another. There is no forgiving one another and moving on. There is you were wrong, I was right, and that's that.
But that's where fear pushes forward dogmatic thinking. It wasn't about facts. It wasn't about logic and reason. It was about, well, there's a threat and we're afraid, and the authority says this, so that's just what we do. And now it's only being acknowledged. The information was there. The ability to logic and reason was there. It was just being ignored for programming.
Yeah,
I would
ignorance
say
is the
that
root of all evil, man.
Slave
it's
thinking.
true. I would say that, in order to actually, move on from this, there would have to be some serious questions asked, not just for forgiveness, but maybe maybe run through the 5 W's and how, and really like come to terms with that shit. And then, we as a community would be able to actually have a well-formed discussion on, like, oh, why were we so primed to just give up our bodily autonomy? Like, how did they get away with all of this? Like, how did it really happen?
Mhm.
Like, we're not able to forgive until the truth comes out. And unfortunately, the truth will never come out about this stuff because people aren't willing to admit that they were lied to, and that they're not going to continue listening to the same people that are lying to them the whole time and accepting, oh, they were just doing what they had to do. And, now they're telling the truth. How much do you hate yourself? How much do you hate yourself that you got to sit there for 2.5 years being lied to, and then all of a sudden you turn around and go, oh, well, now they're telling the truth. It's a wife that goes back to her abusive husband. It really is. It's dependent personality disorder all over the fucking place. People blaming themselves for the abuse. Well, it must have been something I did. That's why he keeps hitting me. And it's like, guy, what are you doing? Wake up. Wake up to the lies. They're lying. The whole time they've been lying.
We don't
And
even have 9/11 truth yet. That was 21 fucking years ago.
And
Like,
this is easier to narrow down too. Just stop letting them tell you what to do with your body. This isn't that hard. It's not about how many planes, if it was a missile or did they fall on their own, were there explosives. It's they were taking your body and saying, it's mine now.
this affected every single individual on the planet.
Yeah. In
Directly.
lockstep. These countries acted in lockstep with one another. And then they can't even, so it's like the road to forgiveness is paved with so many more hurdles that these people they can't even begin to understand. So they want to ask for forgiveness when it's like, you know what, you can get forgiveness when we get to the fucking truth of the matter, and you can understand how much you were being lied to, and then stop falling for it. Stop listening to the fucking people that were lying to you the whole time, that made you put masks on your kids, inject them with experimental fucking poisons, take them out of school, put them back into school, ruin their fucking psychological makeup with all sorts of anxiety. And then furthermore, the younger ones, even, you get in the way of their physical development, their mental development. They're fucked for the rest of their lives. They're stunted. Their growth is stunted for the rest of their lives. The leaps and bounds and milestones that they're supposed to naturally meet, you, with your actions, you got in the way of that. Congratulations. You're a child abuser on top of all of it. I said it to my family members. I have to question how much you love your kids if you're still putting them into the fucking public schools after what they just did to them. Now I don't have a family anymore. Whatever. Don't care. I'm screaming at my grandmother. Don't do it. Don't. Please don't make us, please don't tell us that you're not coming to Thanksgiving unless we all have a vaccine. Don't do it, please. Okay, well, I guess I don't go to family gatherings anymore. I'm not speaking like this because it hasn't affected me, because I'm like in my neat little corner and nothing, I'm in my bubble. No, this shit has really affected me negatively, and it upsets me personally, but the fact of the matter is, to go back to my point, is there is no forgiveness until the truth comes out and you admit that you were lied to, and you stop listening to the people that were lying to you. Stop making a hero out of Dr. fucking Anthony Fauci and all of these assholes, President Trump, Biden, all of these people that put the vaccine out and told you it would stop transmission when it doesn't. I was saying it doesn't stop transmission back in fucking 2020 when it came out, or whatever, 21 when it came out. I was saying it then. And I'm saying it now. And it wasn't the truth then. I was a crazy conspiracy theory then. But now I'm telling the truth. 2 years ago, I was a crazy conspiracy theory. Now it's the truth. You know the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? About 6 to 8 months. That's it. You know,
Well, and they
I'll
just
use it, Fred. It's fucking retarded.
just
Yep.
keep moving the
Fucking
goalposts. It's like the same thing they said with, inflation is transitory, and then it won't. It's a soft landing, and now we're in a full blown recession. Well, same with the vaccines. It will stop transmission. Oh, well, it doesn't do that, but it will. There's a great meme that has like every stage that they went through where the narrative just kept changing about, it won't stop transmission, but it'll reduce your symptoms. And then the last one was like something just totally ridiculous. I can't
Well,
remember
you
what it
won't
was.
die.
Yeah.
Well, we
And these
never said you
people-
wouldn't die. We just said that you might not, your life might not end as soon as it might, otherwise.
Or it could be sad.
I think I've seen that
acronym.
list.
Yeah.
And now we have the Department of Homeland Security coming out, like the Intercept released an article where they investigated into the Department of Homeland Security, where the social media sites have set up login portals for the government to go in and literally like alter to tell the social media companies what they can and cannot allow. It's a direct censorship of speech. And in this country, we have something called the First Amendment, which I don't believe has to be written down to be true, but the rest of these people think that it needs to be written down to be true, and they're violating our freedom of speech law, rights, whatever, that are written down. And it's just, you wonder how it happened, and it's like, oh well, maybe the government is censoring, and everyone's going around going, well, no, Facebook and Twitter, those are private companies, they can do what they want. It's like, no, they're not acting
They're
privately.
not private companies.
They're not acting privately though. They're getting government subsidiaries, like they're getting fucking government funding, which is taxpayer funding, which is theft, and it comes out of my pocket. It comes out of anyone else who pays taxes, their pockets. It's like under threat of violence, under threat of jail and homelessness, basically. But I mean, how does it really go down? Well, that's how it went down. And that also just came out is that and you know what? Like, oh, but now we should really be forgiving the people that did all this. We should really be forgiving everybody that bought into it, all this crazy hysteria. I'm all for, like I said before, like I'm all for like reasonable thinking and being like, maybe this is something to be paying attention to. Yeah, pay attention to both sides of an argument, and then use your logical thinking to be like, no, you know what? I'm not going to let anyone make a claim of ownership over my body, and that's that. And be like, you know what? I'll die of a fucking disease before I let somebody make a claim of ownership over my body. You can make the claim all you want. I'm not going to give into it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you know what? Money's one thing, but when you're telling me I got to maybe get a vaccine, I got to inject myself or my children with something in order to go to a grocery store, go fuck yourself. I'll show up at the grocery store with my anyways.
It's one of those things like with the gun control. There's never a reason. I don't care what's going on in the world. There is never a reason bad enough to justify giving up your natural right to defense or bodily autonomy, whatever it is.
Right.
But don't you don't care about the children?
Yeah, you don't care about kids. Like, no, I care about kids. I care about kids, a lot. I have 2 of my own, and I care about other people's kids. In fact, somebody asked me, like, when I was like saying, oh, these parents masking up their kids, I was told, well, you don't mask your own kids. Like, why do you care what happens to the other kids? I go, well, because my kids have to grow up with the kids that are getting abused right now.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, and it's okay to love kids that aren't yours too. Like that doesn't just extend to your own family. It's called being a decent fucking human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're under the condition of the whole contagion myth and this and that, and like, and did you ever think about it? Like, if I was in high school, like right now, like in this semester, if I was in high school and like still being like told to wear a mask and this and that, like at what point would people like actually try to think for themselves and question this and be like, all right, well, after I got my 3rd booster and this and that, they say, whatever, and I still have to wear a mask and this and that, like, like at what point do people actually kind of just like rebel against, just like these internal contradictions and actually like listen to their own even
since.
like intuition, as buried as it might be, type of thing, you know. But I
Most
understand
of the
people
high
have been so
schoolers,
demoralized, dehumanized at this point. But yeah.
They wake
Am I
up
right?
when they're on the fucking train on the way to the gulag. That's
Yeah,
when they wake up.
this was a bad
In your
idea.
mouth. Yeah.
because everybody just wants to fit in. You know, like everyone just wants to be
Yeah.
a part of the group. And I actually talked to some high schoolers, and they all want to be, just like their peers. They all want to be accepted by their friends. So majority of them just went along, how to get along, and that was sad. And
Why do you think they call
something,
it herd immunity?
yeah, how something that I wanted to bring up is psychopaths aren't asking for an apology. Psychopaths aren't, aren't looking for forgiveness, because once you think that you have forgiven them, as soon as you turn your back, they're going to do what a psychopath does and stab you right in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and then too, a lot of these people, who was blaming us, instead of asking for true forgiveness, like how Derek said, is they really have to forgive themselves. Because if they don't start off with forgiving themselves, like James said, they'll constantly keep falling for the lie. Once you forgive yourself, then that's when you start to be honest. Then that's when you can start to build that bridge internally. But if they are still trying to externalize it and still be accepting, hey, will you forgive me? They're still looking to that external validation from others rather than looking inside of yourself and then realize like, hey, I was wrong. Hey, I bought into a lie. Hey, I still fell for an illusion. And the reason for that is because you have not done that shadow work. You had no control over yourself. You gave up your bodily autonomy. And we all know, when you start to do that shadow work and you have full control over yourself, no external force can control you because you will do what it takes to stand in the right and protect, your sovereignty, protect your body. And that's what these people did not do. So if they truly want, forgiveness, they have to look at themselves in the mirror and forgive themselves and go within themselves to heal their own self because they are still suffering from that trauma. And that's why they still look externally for that validation from others. Will you forgive me? It's like, what is this fucking high school? Like what is this fucking JV? You need to
It's like a
start
form
off
of virtue
with
signaling
forgiving
almost, right?
yourself. Yeah. Yeah. They're still in that emotional unconsciousness,
Yeah, you're right, because they'll need to change up their own actions before they have any right to even ask for forgiveness. Because that's something that we haven't done this evening yet, is to define what it is to forgive. And it's, one person looking and saying, hey, you did wrong by me. And you know what? You've proven you won't do that again. So I forgive you. That's what forgiveness is to me. Somebody wronged me. They come to me and say, hey, I really fucked up there. And I go, well, you're not going to do it again. And I know you're not going to do it again. Somehow I have been able to conclude that you will not do it again. You're either incapable of doing it, or through your actions, you've proven that you've changed. Therefore, I
Yeah.
forgive you.
It takes
like,
time.
It does take time. It does take
Yeah.
time. I was talking to a friend of mine who's been, and I promise this isn't like, hey, yeah, a friend when it's really me. No, like a friend of mine and I, we're talking the other day, and he's been going through some family struggles with his mother. And I said, well, you should be allowed, you should allow yourself to forgive her, because the things that you have a problem with her, she's just physically incapable of ever doing those things to you ever again. So you can forgive her. That doesn't mean you forget. It just means that you're not going to let it you're not going to let this like emotional baggage affect the way that you live your life going forward. And that you'll be able to like look her in the face and be like, yeah, you can't, you have no power here. Gandalf the Grey, like that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So like, we need to define our terms here, forgiveness, the ability to look past wrongdoings in the past on the basis that the person that performed the wrongdoings is incapable of performing those wrongdoings again in the future.
Forgiveness must be from both side. If someone wants you to forgive them, you have to have the will to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, if someone made you wrong, and you know that, oh, you when you said that they were you know that they're gonna do it again, there's no forgiveness there
Yeah, that's
at
what makes it
all,
so
at all.
difficult. That's what makes it so difficult. And
Yes.
something like this is, it's impossible to like, again, in the terms that I laid out, it's impossible for a group of people to ask for forgiveness, because there's no way to prove that you wouldn't do it again. And quite honestly, I really think that they would. I really do. I think they fell for it once. They're not willing to admit that they were lied to. And, there's a lot of things that have to be laid out in order to even start to ask for forgiveness. And none of that has happened. None of it.
Yeah.
None of it.
And they are still missing one of the most essential core ingredients for true forgiveness, and that's courage.
Mm.
Courage is a requirement in order to aspire to true forgiveness, because without that inner fortitude, you will never ever put it into words. You will never ever put it into action, and you will just shy hell away from it and bury it down and stay in that means of cowardice. So hell, that's why hell I brought up the whole shadow work. It's because they haven't forgiven themselves. They haven't developed that courage. Hell, to really go within that framework, then they'll just stay in that same form of mentality. So without that
Yeah, and
courage, we're not going to expect any change.
Absolutely, man, and it goes the same with their, people being still stuck today in their daily routine of whatever box and screen that they have, their mainstream digestive, minutia, going in one ear and out the other, whatever, and alpha waves being pumped in their face, and whatever, Netflix and all that, the blings of cower, if you will, multi-million-dollar steaming pile of whatever. But it's like as far as like that whole process of trying to forgive and forget and this and that, like how many people are actually like making that shift of focus even, and like trying to like recalibrate what the hell they think they know, and like stop paying attention to all these mainstream narratives. Like how many people, like even know about BitChute or Odyssey? Like we talk about every, like, hey, we're over here, guys. Like, don't mind us. And people just don't understand like some of these alternative media platforms. They still even think like, oh, you're on, you make YouTube videos. What are you, in some kind of basement, some kind of conspiracy theorist guy? Like there's still people that have that mentality of, this weird stereotype, even though they're going to go on YouTube and get, their, cooking recipes or the how-to videos and all this other stuff, and watch their Saturday Night Live clips or whatever it's just like,
YouTube
wow.
shorts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So watch their YouTube shorts.
And
sorry that I have access to the most amount of information in the history of humankind at my fingertips, and I'm not going to squander that. Sorry that I don't pass that ability up. My bad. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to, look into things for myself to make my own decisions about things. Sorry. Please forgive me.
I had some nuance too that I wanted to add to what James was, how the way that you defined forgiveness. Personally, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a belief that they won't do it again or are incapable. Forgiveness, again, because true forgiveness is for the victim, not the abuser. So I think you nailed it when you said it's about releasing that emotional weight, that baggage that you're carrying. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself, so that you're not, carrying that. That doesn't mean that you forget. Those are two separate things, forgive and forget. And it's the whole kind of fool me once, fool me twice thing. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If they do something, chances are they are capable of doing that again. It's in them. And that's where you need to have healthy boundaries come in. So just because you forgive somebody doesn't mean you necessarily think that they won't do it again, but you've put up boundaries in place to steel yourself against that type of repeated abusive behavior. But you're just doing it so that you're not walking around with hate in your heart, because that poisons you from the inside. That doesn't help anyone. But you always remember though what people do to you, and keep that in mind going forward, because they might actually try to do that again. I mean, that's the basis of this discussion from the beginning, was most of these people, many at least, would do this again given the chance and the right crisis or justification, but the wounded ego will go to any lengths to validate itself, to avoid accountability, and even if it means reverting right back to the same behavior, just to kind of like reinforce it.
Yeah.
And you have this I mean, when you have a critical mass of the population that their IQ is the IQ of a 6 or 7 years old, then how do you think that they're gonna cope with it? With fear, irrational, unmitigated fear. I mean, I said it before. It was only made. This crisis happened because of words.
Mhm.
There were no proof. There were no justification for it, but it still happened, and people accepted it. And this is the
Spelling.
part. I mean, the forgiveness part there. I agree with Brendan and Logan and you guys. I mean, the forgiveness must come from inside. So you have to do it to yourself first. And I think it's a very good point to bring that forth. And I mean, we have to deal and have to take critical decisions and rational decisions in this case. When it comes to survival, and the survival of your mind and your survival of your body, because it was a it really psyop. It was a psychic attack. It was a spiritual attack. It was meant to divide us.
Yeah,
The
and it
more we're
worked.
divided,
Yeah,
the
I was
more
going to
we're
say that.
weak. The families there, it was already fragmented because of political worldview and biases and belief. And
Gender
now we have
ideology too.
like straight up fucking propaganda, you know,
Yeah.
blowing everything up. And when you have a small percentage of the population that can see through a veil of deception, it becomes our burden to not not forgive, not forget, but to dress, to wake, stand up, and you tight these teeth. You're fucking putting pressure there, and you walk forward, and you know what? It's making the right thing. This is all about doing the right thing, because you know the responsibility, this fear of responsibility, is a child like behavior.
Mm, exactly.
And
It,
although they think
you,
doing the right thing is wearing the mask and protecting grandma and all that stuff, that's what they've
yeah.
been, led to believe. They think they're doing the right thing, a lot of times. That's why.
Well, they told us here in Canada, in Quebec, because I can only talk about this. They were
Mhm.
telling people in advance, this is what's gonna happen now,
Yeah.
and we knew that in the coming weeks it was coming up.
Yeah.
They were telling everything. Every part of the plan was exposed publicly.
Mm.
Do you think that's because they knew that the public wouldn't push back about it? They're just like,
Oh,
here's the
absolutely. I think
here's
it
the
was a
plan.
test.
And it's like predictive programming. It's like they're
Exactly.
telling you
Right.
straightforward, point blank, this is what we're going to do to you. We're going to break your kneecaps and we're going to cut your nuts off, and you're going to love it.
The emasculation of society.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
This is
this
one
full
of the big part
disclosure,
there.
even could say
Woman
it's in the
can be men and men can be woman now. Don't you know? No?
because feelings.
Yeah.
Because
Rationality now it's not a mud anymore. You know, you don't have
There's
to
no
wait
truth. That's just my truth and your truth, and
Yeah.
they can all just be
Oh,
whatever they are.
it's relative, man. It's
Right.
relative. It's completely subjective. Don't worry about
There's
it.
no such thing as man and woman. So, you know, hell, we can call your video, I said we can call your a video medical misinformation, you know, because there's no definition of man and woman. So, you know, hell, you call someone the wrong pronoun, so we can take your video down and deem it as medical misinformation. How
I mean,
dare
we're
you?
not biologists, you know.
Yeah,
Who are
you
we to
know.
make
I
such
identify as an
distinctions?
expert now. I can just do that on a whim. You know, I thought we can do that,
Yeah.
right?
You know what
Like-
though? Like you know what you know what? All jokes aside, what I am is I'm a human fucking being, and the same rules apply to me that apply to Fred, apply to you know, Brandon, Logan, Derek, everyone that's watching, everything, all of us. The same rules apply no matter where you are, where you're from, nationality, creed, whatever. And you know what? All of this shit that was going on was not quite a slow burn, but it was all claims of ownership over our body. And that's slavery, and it doesn't matter. That's wrong and unforgivable. So that's that. It's not about forgiveness. It's about what it really is. What it really should be is like about people that were correct, you know, from the start, just at this point in time being the mature ones and just being able to just walk away and letting the ones that want all the chaos and wanting it all to just implode on itself, let them live in that world. Don't drag me into it with you. That's, you want forgiveness, you know what? Like maybe that's the way. You just go away. Just go away. Don't ever fucking talk to me again.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around all this, but you know, somebody said that I
I'm saying that's
that I
the
have
beginning.
weird forgiveness ideas. Somebody in the chat said that I have weird forgiveness ideas, and it's like, well, you know, when you ponder about these things like nonstop because of how bad it's affected your own personal life. I'm not saying anarcha Rika. I'm not saying that like you're not affected by these types of things. I'm talking about my experience throughout this whole pandemic shit. It's something that I think about all the time, about like the people that I really care about and that I was hurt very badly by. If they came to me tomorrow and said, you know, I was wrong about that stuff and I'm sorry, like, what would I do? It's like, well, I think all the time about forgiveness and how to face the people that wronged me. And the bottom line is that through many, many years of thinking about these things, it really does come down to the other person's ability to do those things again. Because I liken it to a wife going home to an abusive husband that beats her. And for some reason, she keeps going back because she'll go live at her mother's house for a week and then he'll call her up and be like, baby, I've changed. Come home. And so she does. And then a couple weeks goes by and next thing you know, there's another black eye. Oh, I fell down the stairs again. These types of bullshit stories. And it's like, you know, she keeps giving him second chances, but the abuse never stops. You know, like, how do you really know when somebody is worth the forgiveness? And it's when the actions change. It's when they don't do those things ever again. That's when you can grant somebody forgiveness. That's when you can move on from the trauma, move on from the pain and heal. Is when you know that the person that caused that pain can never do it again, either by them changing or you cutting them out of your life, and they can never do it to you again, either which way. So that's what I mean by forgiveness. And maybe it's weird to you and maybe weird to other people, but it's something that I think about. And yeah, so there.
Yeah, behaviors don't die easily.
Forgiveness does have no, you're right. Forgiveness has no expectations as far as, you know, as far as it goes. You don't expect anything. You hope.
I
It
think
takes
that's where
faith.
the kind of maybe
Forgiveness takes faith.
the
They
different
run hand in
ideas are
hand,
coming in. Is
you know?
you said it in that last bit where you said either they change or you cut them out of your life, and that's where I was kind of nuancing that is you can forgive them, but then put up boundaries without it doesn't matter what they do. They could be a total piece of shit. It doesn't matter. You can forgive them because you don't want that on you, weighing on you, but you still put up those boundaries because it's probably necessary. That's all I was saying with that. You can still forgive them and not give them the power or make it up to what they or do or don't do to earn that forgiveness,
Right.
basically.
It comes down to the question of whether or not you want that person around any longer.
Right.
Because you can forgive them and walk away, but it really all it boils down to is their ability to commit that same action against you again. So anything that gets in the way of their ability to what's the word? There's a proper word for it. To be a repeat offender, you know, any opportunity, anything that gets in the way of them being a repeat offender, either by them changing or you change and you walk away and separate yourself from that person or group or whatever, and anything that gets in there in the way of that group or person's reoffending, you know, disassociate from them. You get away from that person or group. You know, that's true self-respect when it comes down to it.
Yep.
Is when
So
you're
you
not,
just-
you know,
So you just opt out of government, right? That's just you just opt out, right?
right. You should be able to, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Wouldn't
honestly,
that be nice?
wouldn't that be
Keyword
nice?
should, yeah.
They only exist because enough people think that they should. So all it
Yeah.
takes is, I mean, that's why I say all the time, like, we live in voluntarism now. We live in a world based off of consent now. If that's the natural order of things, it can never go away. It can never be destroyed. We can never not live in that. It's just whether or not you're willing to put your life on the line and say no more. In some areas, it's easier to at least just say those words than other areas. Some areas you say those words and next thing you know, you have a bullet in your head, you know? But I mean, it's only able to exist because enough people get on board with that. So
Cool, man. And
I mean,
as far as like one-on-one, sorry, what?
oh,
Sorry, what?
You go, man. You go. No problem.
Okay, I was just gonna say, as far as like my approach a little bit, as far as like one-on-one, because I mean, it really depends on each dynamic of the individual relationship you would have with, you know, obviously we started with the article that, you know, is more of a collective issue, but as far as like one-on-one, being able to like just be like open in your heart space and of course, you know, the open mind and all that, being able to actually like work with them and being open, holding that space and just hearing them out, hearing what they have to say, feel into their vibration and their intention and all that stuff, looking them into the eyes, you know, making contact, having good communication, asking the right questions sometimes, and it might have to come down to some interrogation for sure, you know, like it depends on the degree of how bad this person, you know, did someone wrong, of course, but yeah, I think there are ways to make it a two-way street in a sense. But yeah, I mean, like Logan says, like having some real healthy fucking boundaries and this and that, and James, like you're alluding to, like kind of having that cautious aspect of like, you know, like no expectations if they're gonna repeat or not, just like be fucking prepared for the best or the worst, I guess, and hope for the best, but you know, kind of make them be able to approach you and, you know, try to pass that fucking test. And we're all trying to live light as a feather, right, Brandon Spencer? So it really
Trying
alleviates
to.
that heart and like diminishes resentment between both parties in a sense, and it just helps with the whole process of, you know, I don't know.
a lot of people lay down their boundaries as the situation is heating up, and it's the ignorance of those boundaries that leads to the abuse really flourishing and happening. You know, like how many people out there are really okay with being abused and they speak up and they go, I don't know about this. You know, I don't like this. Oh, just a little bit. And it's like, okay,
Just a tip.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I mean, it kind of happens that way all too often. It's not all the time, but it's very often it goes down that way. You know, it's a slow build up to real hardcore abuse, real hardcore trauma, where all the while the road to it was, you know, the boundaries were put down. Like, no, I don't like that, and they go on from a different angle. Well, I don't like that. You know, they keep testing the waters and pushing the boundaries and everything like that. A lot of the times it goes down that way. You know, you're having disagreements with people and, you know, they just push the envelope. So, I mean, yeah, healthy boundaries and setting boundaries is great, but you're also relying on another person to really respect that. And unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do to influence a person to respect, you know?
Yeah, all you can do is make your boundaries clear and assert them where they are,
Yeah.
and then again, let people show you who they are. If they continue to violate you, well, that's all you needed to know. It may be hurtful, and you have care for that person, but you can still love them from a distance.
Yeah. Anyone else want to say it, or do you want me to say it? It's about self-respect.
Hmm.
It's about self-respect.
Yeah.
Somebody starts violating your boundaries, how much of it are you willing to put up with before you before you all encompassing take some form of self-defense, whether it
Yeah.
be speaking, whether it be walking away, running away, maybe even taking it a few steps more, depending on the situation. But really what it all boils back down to is self-respect. How much abuse are you willing to take before you say no? And how
Yeah, exactly.
early are
And
you
going back to
willing
that wife,
to
how much self-respect is she gonna have? You know, she keeps going back and this and that, and we, correlate
Yeah.
that, the abused wife to any person still under the Stockholm syndrome, mental blockages with cognitive dissonance, going back to big daddy nanny government, like not like, oh, give me more, that kind of stuff, but just like, spinning the fucking wheel of misfortune of the next voting cycle and whatever. We're gonna hate the other party and the dialectic fucking continues and all this stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's
Arkarika just had
the
a
old
brilliant
point.
point there about
Yeah.
abuse takes so many different forms that aren't
Fucking
always recognizable or immediately recognizable, and
a
that's
lot of
absolutely
excuses.
100% true.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's about when you recognize it, when you realize that you're uncomfortable and that you've been in a very, precarious position and put into maybe a dangerous situation by another person, or that you are being abused, when those boundaries have been violated, that's when it's time for you to stand up and act. That's what it's about. And like the way that I mean, just to give this person in the chat a little bit, a little bit of backup. The abuse is it's very slow. It's very slow. It's about poking and prodding your way into seeing like how the abuser acts is they poke and they prod their way into situations to see what they can get away with. Oh, that's a little too sensitive. I'm gonna go around I'm gonna flank from the left and see what I can get away with at that angle. Okay. They're waking up a little too quick. Better back up a little bit and try it from a different angle. It's like that's how. So anyone seen Jurassic Park? The first one from 1993 or
Testing
1992
the
or whatever.
offenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
velociraptors never tested the fences in the same spot twice.
They remember.
They remember. Exactly. Clever girl. So
Yeah.
think of it that way. That's how abusers act. They
Also,
there's that
incidentally,
abuse
not
and the
unlike
frog pod boil. Yeah. That's all.
unlike a child, will constantly test the boundaries of what they can and can't get away with. And
Yeah,
we're
that's
talking
their
about
job.
having that childlike mentality. But yeah, and to that point as well of what Anarcharika said, everyone has their own levels of this, so this isn't like a personal towards anyone, but just in general, the level of abuse that goes undetected is still correlated to your level of self-worth, because that's why it's not always detectable, because you're resonating at that frequency that seems okay to you, and it's only after a while, as the toxicity keeps brewing, you maybe snap out of that and realize the effects that it's having on you, and then you have to reassert that. But everybody has their level where it is. Everybody has their level where it's kind of like desensitized, and like others have said, the most insidious forms of abuse are very covert, very slow, and not obvious, like the gaslighting, constantly questioning your reality and things like that. It takes time. That's why we look at like monarch abuse kind of things. Like there's a reason they spend years like cultivating and preening their victims.
I mean, there's gaslighting, and then you have the rise of the narcissists, that it's coming bigger and bigger in society. These people who are uh, stuck between their screens, and they're playing a game, and this is about me. This mentality that keeps coming back. We're going full circle now, because this is actually we are actually witnessing the inversion of everything. This is a satanic inversion that we're seeing. Everything is getting upside down now. Everything. And I mean, the people who kills you are now your savior.
Mhm.
The people who make you sick are your doctors. You know, and
True.
I think this mentality, it's not going away. We're not
A
gonna see
reflection
the
of a
end of
sick
it.
society. Yeah, a sick
Yeah,
society.
exactly. And
A
and
society who ignores the self.
And
yeah,
truth itself.
the
Yeah.
post psychological world
Yeah.
Truth
where,
is always there. Truth is always persistent. Truth is the only thing that can get us
well,
back to nature and to, it's like truth can be obscured, it can be hidden, it can be twisted, but truth itself is
Yeah.
immutable.
yes,
And that's the
they
only
would
way to get
even,
back to living in harmony with each other, because it's all these just different, my truth, your truth. We don't, agree on these things, these issues, or whatever.
you would tell them the truth and they wouldn't fucking accept it.
But that's their
Well,
illusion, though.
that's how we've gotten into this
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like that's what I was saying before about being on board with accepting the truth, and that takes admitting that you've been lied to. And unfortunately, like, they're just going to keep following the same, like, you'd have to denounce the people that did all the lying, and that's the government. Like, you know and that's like the medical establishment. They did all this lying, well, with the pandemic. I mean, so I mean, it's like, that's what it takes. It says, in the Bible, knowing the truth shall set you free, will make you free, and it's like, that's that. Like you were saying, Logan, it's a great harmonizer, coming into alignment with the truth, bringing your perception to in line with the truth. That is the great harmonizer of nature. That's how we move forward. And we're not moving forward, we're stagnant. And
Right.
that's a problem. And stagnation, like, that's a societal disease. Dis-ease,
It goes against nature.
Yeah.
very much
Everything
so.
in nature that stagnates just brews with sickness and
Yeah. Like, think of a butt of water, stagnant water. It's just
right.
gross. It smells. You can't drink it. It's black and muddy and shit. Like, it's disgusting. You can, when you think of water, you think of like a nice glass of iced water, not this stagnant pond
And
or
what else
bog.
is water but an allegory for emotions? What do we have?
Yeah.
A mental health issue epidemic there, because our emotional water is stagnant, and that same black
Yeah.
nasty muck is stuck within our physiology.
Yeah, it's a very much true.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you gotta kind of be able to go with, again, more water. Let's play on water for a little bit. You know, you gotta be able
Yeah.
to go with the flow of nature a little bit. You know, you gotta be able to, you know, relinquish control, realize that, you know, the only thing you really have control over is, should be, your own thoughts, emotions, and actions.
That
And
which
then
doesn't
Bingo.
flow doesn't grow.
Yeah.
exactly. So I mean,
Boom.
once you start trying to, you know, control other people's thoughts, emotions, and actions, that's when starts getting a little hairy, and that's when we started, you know, that's when we start, you know, going down this path toward like Satanism and all these really bad things that are going on right now. And it's like when you start relinquishing that control and realizing that there are just some things in the world that you just have no control over.
Yeah.
That's when we start seeing more harmony with nature, because nature in its very essence is kind of chaotic. It's unpredictable. It does its own thing. It has a will of its own.
It has its
And
own intelligence as well,
yeah,
Yep.
and
its own
nature
divine
isn't
order.
it, yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's uh sort of like how the Thelemites would say, order, well, maybe not the Thelemites, but ordo ab chaos, you know, order out of chaos, where it's like, yeah, nature is belligerent,
Hmm.
you know, in
Nature
its own
is
right.
balance. It's
Yeah,
not
Right.
chaos. It's
Right.
balance between the two.
Chaos and
well,
order.
yeah,
Yeah, it's order and chaos.
It's like,
yeah,
to take it back to the full circle with the discussion before. It's
Yeah.
like, the height of
put
human
me off this
arrogance
full
is to
screen.
think that the height of human arrogance is to think that we can master completely and control nature,
Yeah.
where you have this virus. Well, we need to make this man-made, medicine that's going to eradicate it, instead of just letting the intelligence of our bodies and the intelligence of nature run its course and solve the problem on its own.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
man
and that's
trying to
true.
play
One of the
creator.
biggest fears, the fear of death.
I mean,
Also,
Mhm.
nature as such is an orderly thing. What I mean by that is that it's cleaning itself up.
Yeah,
You know,
Mhm.
we don't they don't nature doesn't need us to clean it. It's gonna clean by itself.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's why vultures and parasites and things exist, to feed and
Yep.
to clean up the scum.
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess.
like flies and maggots. And
Nature operates
actually, we have
perfectly.
already have maggots inside us. We're
Yeah.
already made for it.
And what about the law of correspondence? Like, how are we, keeping maintaining our own ecosystems within ourselves and having that proper, gut brain correspondence, that in and of itself, and going back to the water thing and how much of our body's percentile is water in correspondence to the, proportions of the earth in a sense. And so, yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
shit that is, to the macro to the micro. And if we're not getting that micro, the mini micro, even, we got worlds within ourselves. Like, tap into that, get into more astrology and being able to navigate certain things, and discovering more of just who the fuck you really are on a multidimensional level as well.
Yep.
And then ripple that shit out, guys. Come on. Yeah.
Hey, that's why hell, I always say all of our external problems are really just a manifestation of our problems that are really internal problems,
It's a
because we are
mirror.
just ignoring the self. Yep. Like people are just ignoring the shadow work, don't want to, hell, go within themselves, don't want to, solve their traumas, don't want to challenge their belief systems and what they think is true and what they believe, held to be true. And then too, we are just trying to play creator, thinking we can create what's how morally right and morally wrong. How everyone buys into, subjective how morality. Um, no one talks about objective truth. So, we are trying to play God. We are trying to play creator. And that's one of the great sins that man cannot do. Like man can't play creator and man cannot control his fellow man, and that's what we are falling victim to.
You are the king of your own kingdom, and that's where it ends, right there.
Yep, absolutely.
That's right.
And there's a pattern into natural law, and we're talking a lot about the problems that come from it, but I would like to ask people for, because shadow work, there's a bunch of people who don't want to do it, will never do it. Okay, so we need rooted solutions. I mean, shadow work, you cannot push it on people. You're gonna explain them to it, and you're gonna have the fluoride stare, like Brendan says. You're gonna have the empty, glossy eyes. But I mean, there's real solution that we can bring, and I think this is awareness, because it's all about mind control.
What if we had shadow work clinics in the same way that you see like rehab facilities and
How
that
how
sort of
do
thing?
you convince people to get into shadow tribes
We gotta
if they
label it
cannot
something
even look
along the
at
line of like,
themselves in the mirror?
there's these mental health crises, and like this is something that's going to fall in line with those solutions. But it's yeah, a lot of it's contracted by the governmental bullshit and stuff. I was living in Oregon last spring, and like I saw tons of jobs even on Craigslist of like, hey, we need like social workers for healthcare providers, like mental health care shit. That's that shadow work that comes into play, and that's going to be like tenfold as better as what the fuck that's out there right now. Because like, do these people even get better? I don't see like a whole lot of improvement. It seems like shit is getting degraded. And yeah, the finances and funding for that is, degrading as well. But shit, man, it's like ain't nothing fucking new to that. Like across the Bay Area in San Francisco in the 80s, or the Reaganomics, or whenever the fuck that happened, like social, things went down, and like all the crazies were out on the street. That's why the tenderloin is so fucking tender up until today, with all the drug perpetuation on the streets and all that shit. So yeah.
Something that comes to mind is the idea that you cannot help somebody that does not first want to help themselves.
Mhm.
And that's really what it kind of boils back down to. And that's the tricky thing, is you never really know when that person's really ready for the help that they might need. And something called divine intervention comes to mind as well, where like, the universe will find a way to show you signs. Certain, synchronicities will come up. Nature's wink saying, hey, hey, pay attention. I'm giving you a chance here to go, take a right in that fork in the road instead of going left. Where more opportunity to thrive comes, instead of just being alive. Instead of just being here breathing, being a mouth breather, taking up space. Where you can actually like learn from your mistakes. Nature does that. The universe it provides to all, not just to those willing, but it provides to everybody. It's just whether or not the person's ready to accept the help. If they want to help themselves, and that's where it's important to remember that like we have no right to press anything upon anyone else. The right doesn't exist. So it's like that's really what we got to remind ourselves of, is that like to approach this from a principled stance. It's really not my problem whether or not another person heals themselves. It's not. I want them to. I want the best for everybody, but it's really not my problem. I can't make it my problem because face it, it's a slippery slope. Maybe it's a logical fallacy. I mean, I know a slippery slope is a logical fallacy, but sometimes it can be true that like it kind of starts being an act of aggression upon that other person when they're not doing what you think they should be doing. You kind of have to let them go and just do it themselves, and
Unless their
they'll find their
behavior
own
is causing
way.
harm to other people, including yourself. Like, you've seen the Chappelle
That's the
show.
thing.
Y'all can pick apart this example of Remember Tyrone, the crackhead, and like they had like not a divine intervention, but an actual like friend intervention where they like pretty much kidnapped him, right? Because and it's funny, but the way it was done. But I mean, like this could be true for certain people just with like serious fucking drug addictions, especially. They're at a point where they have no will force, they have no control over their body, and they're fucking people over left and right, possibly. Depending on their behaviors, and this is all theoretical or take it case by case, but yeah, man, it's just
This is actually why I
Really,
picked that as an example, because of the kind of parallels. It's like what people will heal when they're ready, whether it's purging a drug addiction or ready to do that deeper inner shadow work, which ironically would actually heal a drug addiction. But I'm certainly not advocated for like forced rehabilitation. You're going to go and do your shadow work, but I even had flashes of imagining like a kind of an intervention of like, now we love you, Bob, and we just all care about you, and we want you to go do this shadow work, because your emotional instability is really affecting us all, But to that point earlier too, I can see the slippery slope aspect, even with something like government. I mean, government exists as a direct manifestation of the state of mind that people are in. So until we do shadow work, the government's probably going to still exist. So, I mean, you could almost argue that side, but definitely that's getting into some relativistic territory because, yes, like that's where like more healthy boundaries would come in. Like if somebody has a drug problem, it's affecting you personally, you can cut them off from your own life. That doesn't give you the right to like kidnap them and put them in rehab. That's a totally different story.
Yeah,
So,
but the problem is like what like when does it? The problem is that when does it become apparent that they actually have a drug problem? Who is deciding that? Do you have the right to decide that for another person?
I
When does
wasn't
it
saying
become?
that,
I know, I know you're not saying that.
but you can tell if it's toxic to you.
Yeah, but how and why? What are the real circumstances around it? Are there other things that are going on that can be dealt with to make it so that the person can do with it with their body what they choose, and not affect your life in a negative way?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I'm bringing up is because this whole drug addiction thing is kind of largely a lot of the times it's like not our right to decide what somebody, and I know you're not saying this, Logan. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything. I'm just bringing up this point that like it's not our right to dictate what somebody can and cannot do with their body.
I
And
agree with you.
when somebody has a drug addiction, who is making that classification? That's the question that I'm asking. And if that person who's making that classification of somebody else having a drug problem, like, do they even have the right to do that? Do they have no, they don't. So when does it become a drug problem? When they start lying, cheating, and stealing? Because if that's the thing, like if that's the case, like, well, maybe that's just an environmental circumstance where it's like, maybe it's all this stigma around, using drugs. Maybe it's because there's prohibition on these drugs that causes all these other bad things. Like, what if we like got rid of all the prohibition on drugs? What if government just went away and stopped telling people what to do with themselves? Like, would these problems work themselves out? Eventually, I believe they would. They would work themselves out.
Well, that's what natural law is all about.
Right.
It's letting people feel the sting of their own bad choices so that eventually maybe they'll awaken from that.
Right. And it's, I mean, somebody just said in the chat, they can get out of my house and do meth. Like, I'm not sure the context of that, but like, yeah, like that's the thing. Like, you have property rights and so do they, but like how often do you have a meth head in your house? Like, how often are you really surrounded by that kind of stuff? It's
Hopefully
like, you
never.
be real about this. Like,
well, it's kind of like two different things where like you have your own boundaries and you can cut them off so that they're not like stealing from you to buy drugs or coming over all messed up or whatever. But say that's your son or your brother or your uncle, you still care deeply about that person. You can have your own discernment and see that's hurting them. Even if you insulate yourself from the effects of that personally, it's still hurting you because you care about them and you see them in decline, their health is going bad, their, finances or whatever have you, and that's kind of their choice to make. Because, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. You can follow this line of logic all the way to kind of the most extreme example. People have the right to take their own life if that's like their choice, because if they ultimately own themselves, as dark and painful as that is to look at, like, and you could almost argue that if you were about to witness that and you went and like took the gun out of their hand or something like that, you could understand that maybe. But yet at the end of the day, it has to come down to those first principles of you own yourself, even to the very end.
Yeah.
So
No, you're absolutely right.
I have a question for you guys, because I was listening to you talking and I was like, okay, why you're great workers, aren't you? So if it wasn't your problem, you wouldn't be there. You know, I'm a great worker because I fucking hope that people will get better. If I wasn't do it, if I didn't care about it, I wouldn't do the great work. Because I consider at least I have a part of responsibility in this world. It's not all my problem. Sure, it's not. It's not all my problem. I'm not responsible for everyone's decision.
But
But
you
if
do it
I
because
can
it's
do
the right
something
thing.
about this, I'll do it, because it brings me more problem to avoid
Right.
these problems.
But we're not forcing anyone. We're
I'm
letting
not
people
talking about forcing
voluntarily.
anyone. I'm talking about making people aware of what mind
And I wasn't
control
talking
is. This
about
is
forcing anyone either. Like, as far as like an intervention, just real quick, just to clarify what I mentioned. Like, in that you seen that Chappelle episode, that skit, Tyrone, the crackhead guy, right? And like his best friends that care about him, they brought him down just to sit him down and talk to him and try to use that. And there is a law of suggestion,
Mhm.
and they did it through that lost principle of care to a good degree. Obviously, we're talking about a funny comedy skit, but roll with it. And they're also implying like that role of
That cat.
self-defense, because they just don't want him to like steal money from them. I mean, like Tyrone, the crackhead, sold their house to have a a crack block party for a weekend and stuff like that. But so
They
so it's
did use
basically just
deceit
them trying
in that
to like get
episode.
him in a room with the four of them or whatever, not to
Yeah.
intimidate him, but just to try to
Get
have him
through.
hear them out and make him feel, try to be some kind of catalyst for him to maybe like, okay, I feel bad, maybe I will go to rehab and change my ways, I realized I caused a lot of harm, that kind of stuff. It's like people putting a mirror in front of them to kind of like see if they're gonna look long enough and be like, oh shit, I did that, oh man, I'm so sorry, type of thing. Like, I respect that you will allow me to still, using crack, but I don't want to cause any harm. But yeah, it's whatever, man. Like, I respect people's free will. That's all I want to say about that. But James,
Yeah.
I hear you for sure, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, what I was saying, Fred, about
Yeah.
it not being my problem or not being somebody's problem, is that at the end of the day, like, we can speak and try to wake people up and make people aware of all of this knowledge and spread the word and try to help people. Like, that is very altruistic, and that's very, very a very healthy thing to be doing, is trying to make the world a better place, right? That's what we're doing here. That's the magnum opus, is to de-occult this information, to wake people up, to get them to be autonomous, right? To inspire that within other people. Like, there's nothing wrong about doing that. And that is my problem. That is my problem. No matter where I go, in any time, in any place, the fact is that we're in a condition of slavery. That is my problem. And other people are putting me there. So yeah, it is my problem. What isn't my problem is what other people do with their own bodies. That's not my problem. All right. Until it comes into my, my home, my domicile, and I say, get out. If they're not respecting my rights, if they're not respecting my sovereignty, that's when it becomes my problem. All right. So what other people choose to do with their own bodies because they have the right to do it, that's not my problem. It's very tricky, but that's what I was trying to get at, is that if somebody doesn't want the help, then therefore it's not my problem when it
Sure.
comes to drug addiction specifically,
Sure.
not when it comes to the condition of slavery that we're in. Okay. Even if they're putting themselves there through a drug addiction and I'm trying to help them with that, if they don't want the help, it can't be my problem.
You can't
It
help
just can't.
people who
I
don't want to help themselves.
I can't. I've been dealing with drug addiction. It's been a part of my life personally, alcoholism, drug addiction for almost 20 years of my life. And even before then, I was dealing with it from my parents. Just to let you know, my entire life has been surrounded by this issue. And I just know that at some point in time, it just can't be my problem because it's impeding my ability to move forward with, actually making the world a better place. If I'm concentrated all my time on somebody who just is abusing the help, taking advantage of it, and not respecting anything. So
It's even about self-respect in that regard as well,
Yeah.
because you respect your own energy and where you put that, and you're not going to just throw it down a black hole of somebody that doesn't want to help themselves, somebody that want to stay stuck where they are. You could better spend that same energy helping many people that are ready for that and ready to do the work themselves.
Yeah. So like
themselves.
that's when I said it's not my problem. That is what I was specifically talking about, is the choices another person makes with their own body. If they're putting harm upon themselves and they don't want the help that I'm willing to provide them, if they do not want that help, it's no longer my problem. You come back when you're ready for the help and I'll be here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
But until then, I can't waste my time. There's too much work to be done.
Absolutely. I mean,
so I can tell you I know you a little bit by now. I could tell you're like, what are you talking about? It's not your problem. Yeah. So,
I've been doing the great work for.
get me off the full
that.
screen. Get me out of here.
I've been doing this for that. I've been doing the great work for helping my fellow men to see what I see.
Yeah.
And I think it's achievable. I don't think it's impossible. There's plenty of people who are hungry for this information. They're searching for it. They don't quite know where to go to get it. But we're trying, me and other people. I'm not the smartest one, but I'm getting the shit done. And it takes will to do it. It's the same thing as addiction. It takes will to get out of it, to get the truth out, and getting bombarded with idiots and asinine people.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have to go through this. We have to swim against the river. We have to go through there. It makes us stronger, and we know better after you have a conversation with someone who is empty and is hollow inside. You grow even from this conversation, even with this relation. Doesn't mean you have to tolerate all these bad people around you. It's not the thing. It's to learn from this.
Yep.
I'm not making certain mistake because I've seen people make mistakes, and I'm not doing it. This is how you see it. It's like the past should be just an encyclopedia. History. Well, the history we have. Because essentially, I don't think any of this is not even true, even close to truth.
Yeah, well, we're making history every day. We're making new history every day.
Yes.
Yeah. It's all about being on the right side of it.
Yeah, fucking discernment. This is what we need in this world. And what we need to push on people now is natural law and objective morality,
Yep.
because this is the key. This is the key. And people, you think what you have to think. You think it's a belief. Think what you have to think, what you want to. I'm saying that natural law and objective morality are blueprint for a better individual, a better society, a better civilization on every aspect.
Facts.
Yeah, science of
there's really
consciousness, not a belief system of
there's
Yep.
really not much more like self-empowerment type of knowledge that one can gain, and that's better than the knowledge of like natural law and objective morality and our ways of operation within the universe. It's some of the most inspiring, self-empowering knowledge one can gain. It's healing. And personally, like that anecdote that I was talking about, that I mentioned with drug addiction and alcoholism and everything, learning about natural law and objective morality is what has made it possible for me to like be almost 2 years completely sober. No alcohol. I've quit smoking cigarettes. I've like so many good things happened for me personally from taking this knowledge seriously and really applying myself to learning it and trying to help other people learn it as well. So I mean, there's no better self-help out there than maybe even perhaps having somebody like Mark Passio screaming at you about why don't you love yourself? Why do you fucking hate yourself?
Hell yeah.
So like it's empowering, and we want to be on the right side of history, and that side is the side that's reminding everybody about what bodily autonomy really means. And I mean, am I wrong about that? So I mean, like that's really the right side of history right there, and we're making new history every day. And I'm glad to be here.
Hell yeah, but they keep rewriting his story. And the last Facebook user comment, I don't know if you could post that up real quick, Fred, but speaking of bodily autonomy, what's going on with the mentally ill people in this? What the fuck is going on right here? And, I just thought of something like, what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, it is really just empowering. Like, imagine if people weren't forced any kind of treatment, but what if they were, like, and we're not going to force anything because we understand the fucking principles and, rights and all that stuff. But imagine instead of any kind of treatment that people would be forced to have or mandated to do, what if they were just thrown the book, The Kabayan or something like that, Just read that.
Have to read about 10
How many
times.
people would actually freaking get it or like have some kind of empowerment within themselves, and change their state of mind, change that behavior, and
what about learning to say no?
no?
I think that's one part. Learn how to say no. I think it's a one big part there. When it makes you feel bad, you don't have to do it. Even if it's your boss, even if it's your government, if they ask you to do something wrong, just say no. That's it.
If you don't have boundaries, you're a slave.
Yep.
Here we go. I mean, it's clear. I mean, you don't. If I let me, I don't want to finish that on a bad note, but I have to tell you this. Here now, it has been voted. I don't think it. I'm not sure about it. It has been voted, but they want to help little kids to die. They want to kill them because they're depressed.
Mm.
We're talking about euthanasia for
Like
children.
assisted suicide kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow,
Like
that's sick, man.
like Futurama, going to a pod,
Yeah.
suicide phone booth.
Your
So
children, and they
ingrained,
don't have to warn their parents.
What?
Oh, that's just straight evil.
A
I'm not
23-year-old
fucking
girl
joking.
over in Belgium just went through this like recently. Assisted suicide.
Oh, was she the one who witnessed that terroristic attack and she couldn't
Uh-huh.
cope with the trauma?
Yep. So
Yeah.
she went and got herself suicided, and state sanctioned suicide. And
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense, the timing, because we're about to enter into, this generation of children are going to be growing up in a world that is traumatized to the likes in which we can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
Yep.
We can't even imagine. Like, it's so it makes complete sense that they're turning this page, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if
And
kids can go and change their gender without their parents' consent, then why is this really that much of a stretch beyond that?
yeah.
It's not
Right.
that surprising.
And
You
just to
can't even
clear
drink a
something
beer at
up
that
about
age.
about about bodily autonomy, when it comes to children, like, so the thing is that as parents, like, we actually do maintain a certain amount of authority over our children, because that is our purpose here. Okay, we're their stewards. We're here to make sure that the path is that the path is cleared for them while they grow up and grow and self-actualize and get into a bot and, like, grow into a body that is ready to carry them the rest of their lives. We protect them. We're the shield that stops the threat of anything. So that's the extent of our authority. We defend them. We come to their defense. And hopefully, by the time they're big enough to defend themselves, we've taught them how to defend themselves. But even when my kids are full grown, I'll still lay down on a grenade for them. It doesn't matter. That's just going to be something that I do for the rest of my life. I'll always be their father. They'll always be my children. But I mean, there's always been this, like, discussion about, well, bodily autonomy. Well, what about children? Children can, it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, but there
Yeah.
are two sides to that truth, where, there are two truths within that. It's one of the rare instances in nature where there is two truths involved with something at the same time, where, yeah, bodily autonomy does exist, and it exists equally for every human being. But children are a little bit it's tough to find the right
Nescience.
words, but it's different. It's different for children, where we're supposed to step up to the plate and get in the way of threats and not let them make decisions because they think some fat guy fucking squeezes their way down a chimney, to
They don't
deliver
have the
presents. Like,
cognitive function.
they're able to fall for such things like that. Like, yes, Brandon, they don't have the cognitive ability to discern truth from lies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that we're supposed to step in and fulfill that role for them until they are able to, because there's something called cognitive development that happens over the span of a very long period of time. We're talking 25 fucking years
Yep.
until they're cognitively developed to their maximum capability. So that's what we're talking about here. And yeah, I just felt like, in closing, to uh, uh, point that out about children in specific, because we could be here for we could be here until the sun comes up talking about this part, and I think that we should pick it up here next time we meet.
Yeah. I mean the children, I mean, James, he's spot on. I mean, we are fathers. I'm a father. I have 3 children now.
In
About to
nomine
have a
Padre. No, just kidding.
I'm
Sorry.
about to have a fourth one, and I
Jesus.
want my children to
Fred
live
can't
in
miss. Am I right, fellas?
what?
I said Fred can't miss. Am I right, fellas?
I'm a fucking healthy vegetarian. I'm fucking
The seed is strong up there in Quebec.
yeah, exactly. You're right.
Jesus,
But
boy.
Speaking of swimming upstream,
Like salmon up the Capistrano.
fucking
Jesus.
healthy.
Can I go to bed yet?
But
this is a
I
perfect
wanted
note to
to
end
say
this
that.
chat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Fred,
wanted to
say
say
what you
that
said.
children are the wealth of a civilization, and without education, proper education, and parents that their head out of their asses, because it's about that. You know, you have the children that they are thrown around now into these institutions, and People, you need to get your fucking children out. Get them out because they're gonna make robots out of them. I
Yep.
mean, we were our generation were groomed for worker to be workers, but now they don't need it anymore. And they're very clear about this. This is why we're assisting to this genocide, that we're seeing this democide. A lot of people are getting get poorer. The people are even more poor than ever. The population, the global population, is declining dangerously, and they're still talking about overpopulation. There's no such thing as overpopulation. It's getting bad. And but to finish, and I want to thank everyone. Thank you for the people who were there all along. It was a really difficult conversation, and I mean it's worth talking about it again and again and again until people get it,
Yep.
and not only talking about problems but talking about solutions, and inspiring these children and inspiring these adults, even if they don't realize it now. Some of them, there's a percentage of them, they're gonna get it, and we have to like go and force it with the amount of force that we need. This is what responsible adults are. You do what you have to do to make it safe for everyone, and not safe in the government sense. Safe mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for everyone. And we have to grow up for that. There's no other way than growing up and maturing. And I'm repeating that a lot because it's so fucking important. We need to fucking grow up and get over these divides, getting over these little dramas, getting over all these things and co op, working together. The more we're going to be on the same page, the easier it's going to be. That's it. That's it. And all the groups, the subculture, the subgroup, we need to leave this shit behind us and go forward all hand in hand on the same page, because they're fucking steamrolling us now. You know, we need to fight with everything. So thank you guys for being there and sharing your wisdom and all these interesting facts about this situation. And I think we all went through this hell together, but we're still alive and still pure blooded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still pure.
Where
Don't
our
need it.
blood will like the worth of our blood will fucking explode.
Right. And
on
we
the-
have we don't have any of those little weird squiggly things inside us that
It's pretty glad you never need a blood transfusion.
yeah. Oh my god, no.
wow.
Oh my god.
Start storing your own blood. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
Here we were about to end on a nice light note, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Let's
So
go back
thank
to the
you, everyone.
squigglies.
Yeah.
All right.
Avoid
All right. All right. All
avoid the
right.
squidlies. Please avoid them.
Yeah.
So
All
thank you,
right.
everyone. We have to go. So thank you, everyone. People, the comments.
Awesome
From-
discussion. Very,
Yeah,
very
thanks.
enjoyed and honored to
Yes.
be on a first time
And
appearance on this.
Logan,
Yeah, Logan, glad to have you.
you're gonna be a guest on the podcast
Absolutely. Next Wednesday.
Yeah, watch out.
Yes.
Talking about the runes.
Yes.
Sweet.
And
My life is in
please,
ruins.
people, just quickly remember people where they can get your work, because there's a lot of new people now. So just quickly go through.
Sure. The Wizard Factory on all the major platforms. Again, check out my link tree for all of those. My platform is pretty eclectic, covering the pagan mindset, animism, obviously occultism, runes, and of course, natural law, freedom, and personal empowerment.
Awesome. Brendan.
Yeah, you can catch me on Odyssey, BitChute, the One Great Work Network. I don't recommend checking out my YouTube channel. I highly don't recommend it.
Don't you dare.
Derek, your page.
Oh, hey there.
Your new page.
Yeah, Awakening Mind is something that I use as my moniker for the DJ. Good old truth infused tapestries of some shit that you won't hear anywhere else. And that's not to brag. Like, I don't really see anyone else doing what I've done, but big fucking deal. Like, no bragging or resting on my laurels either. But yeah, sticking to objective morals and broadcasting that in many ways. So yeah. Odyssey, BitChute, even Mixcloud, yeah, just Linktree, like Logan said. Look, I gotta send you that one, Fred. But yeah, cheers,
Yeah.
thank you.
James.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Fred, again. My name is James Quarterner. My podcast is called A Hitchhiker's Guide to Truth. My website is called freeyourmindne.com. My show is just, on a temporary hiatus for the moment, working on a couple of other projects. You guys will all hear about that as soon as we're ready to go live with those. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the future, man. And I'm looking forward to being here for these roundtables. You guys will be able to catch me here, making my presence known. So yeah, like I say on my own show, I'll end it here with you guys with the same kind of motto. We're facing a lot of turbulence here in the world, and going forward, it's very important to remind yourself to do the right thing, no matter the cost. Thank you.
And shout out to all the viewers that tuned in and left comments and engaged with us. We really appreciate y'all.
Yeah,
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
great questions and comments. Yeah.
The LIBERcast is on Facebook, YouTube, Odyssey, BitChute. So if you want to go
Twitch,
there,
no?
there's a lot of.
Did you get on Twitch
There's a
now?
lot of what?
Did you get on Twitch also?
No,
Oh, okay. I
no,
saw
not
comments
well.
coming from
I mean,
Twitch.
there's so much outside. I don't even know half of them. So
Yeah, man, yeah.
the principle are good. Odyssey, it's the best. Go on
Mm.
Odyssey. All these people there on Odyssey. So we'll go there. And thank you, everyone, and have a good night.